This is Skibidi Toilet, and I'm not really sure it needs much of an introduction. What simply started off as nothing more than a small Gmod animation quickly exploded into its own cultural phenomenon, if you're under the age of 13. You see, Skibidi Toilet doesn't tend to have the greatest reputation online because it's seen as nothing more than brainrot. And honestly, up until a few days ago, I completely believed this. I thought that Skibidi Toilet would be the most garbage piece of content I've ever watched. It turns out that I was completely wrong about Skibidi Toilet this entire time. While at first sight, it might seem like nothing more than stupid brainrot, it actually has a deeply emotional and captivating story. And I honestly feel that people aren't giving Skibidi Toilet a good enough chance. So in this video, I decided to watch all of Skibidi Toilet. The way that this is gonna work is I'm gonna talk about every single season and most of the episodes, and every now and then I'm gonna pop in and talk about it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Season 1, Episode 1. The very first episode of Skibidi Toilet shows a head in the toilet singing, and there's really nothing much else to it. I'm pretty confident that you've seen this short before, or at least heard of it if you've even merely thought about the concept that is Skibidi Toilet. Moving on to episode 2, we see 3 urinals in an elevator while 2 of them sing. The toilet in the middle later pops out its head and starts singing before at the very last second turning into a skull. Now, maybe I'm looking way too deep into this, but I believe that this is some sort of foreshadowing to show what they are capable of. Episode 3 shows a crowd of people looking over in disbelief at a freeway as a giant toilet makes its way towards everybody, while surrounded by multiple tiny toilets. Trust me, I was just as confused as you are. In episode 4, we see a bunch of people at what I assume to be a restaurant, but then suddenly an even bigger toilet surrounded by multiple tiny ones makes its way into the restaurant, concluding our very first season of Skibidi Toilet. Now, if season 1 of Skibidi Toilet is all you watch out of the entire series, no shit, it's gonna be pointless brainrot garbage. What a lot of you may not realize is that there is a deep, intricate meaning between each and every short within the first season. You have, Season 5, Episode 2. We start off the season in a familiar area, the freeway, the location where we first spotted the giant toilet. However, this time we see what I assume to be the same giant toilet, but this time in the air. Suddenly, multiple other toilets appear alongside it, opening their mouths to let out even more tiny ones. Episode 6. Here we see a toilet DJing. That's about it. Episode 7. Although seemingly starting off pointless, this episode is what I believe to be a pivotal moment in the entire series. The person filming decides to take a different approach. Instead of running away, they decide to flush. Thankfully, this approach seems to work. Episode 8. An army of cameramen walk towards an army of toilets seemingly about to start a battle. Episode 9, Season 3. This begins with a person going to a toilet memorial. This memorial is occupied by 2 toilets. They both turn around and face the cameraman, who proceeds to flush them both. Shortly after doing this, he paints the portrait with a symbol, a camera symbol. Now, I believe that this confirms my suspicion that we are seeing everything from the point of view of the cameraman. Moving on to episode 10, we enter a church that seems to be occupied by tons of toilets, but at the very front of the church, there is a giant one. Suddenly, a group of cameramen burst into the church, eventually flushing the giant toilet. We see a giant army of toilets on the freeway with 2 larger toilets behind them. See, now season 3 is kind of where stuff starts to happen. You're starting to put puzzle pieces together. You see tons of other toilets too. I really am doing a deep dive on Skibidi Toilet at 3 in the morning. Wonderful. Episode 12, Season 4. This shows a full-on war between the cameramen and the toilets. The cameraman whose view we're watching turns around to fight off toilets before suddenly a new giant leader comes out and unleashes laser eyes on the cameramen who are fighting. Episode 13. This episode has a giant spider cameraman thing who fires towards the giant flying toilet in the sky. Episode 14. An army of cameramen go towards the enemy when suddenly a giant army tank rams through all of them. Okay, so upon doing a little bit more research, this toilet is called the G toilet. I don't know what that means. Giga toilet, giant toilet, I guess. However, for the majority of the video, I still for some reason call him Giant Toilet. Episode 15, Season 5. Another cameraman pulls out a remote, detonating all of them. Our cameraman tries to infiltrate the Skibidi headquarters by adding a camera into a toilet. Seemingly a very smart plan, they are eventually caught. Episode Episode 17, our cameraman goes towards a group of his allies who are overlooking at a gathering of toilets, both big and small. Eventually, he detonates a giant laser device from the sky, blowing them all up. But in reality, no, they all manage to survive and things don't go well. Episode 18, Season 6, Giant Cameramen. There are now giant cameramen fighting back against the toilet. Episode 19, we are introduced to one of our main heroes, the Giant Cameraman. He has a giant laser thing in his chest who can seemingly take on the impossible. In episode 20, the Giant Cameraman is fighting against many more huge toilets, and they do almost defeat him. However, he does manage to jetpack away to safety. Episode 21, Season 7, the cameramen interrogate the enemy, demanding to know who the giant toilet is. In the next episode, we see a giant toilet continuing to invade. Moving on to episode 23, we see the giant cameraman being repaired by his allies who seem to have taken damage in the last episode. Episode 24, Season 8. Finally, there is a win for the cameramen. They defeat toilets temporarily. In episode 25, there are giant cameramen who are grouping together to defeat everybody. Episode 26, Season 9. We are introduced to the giant speaker man in a red suit. He manages to help the cameramen fight. In episode 27, the cameramen infiltrate a warehouse of toilets and win a fight. In episode 28, we see a group of enemy toilets discussing what I assume to be some sort of evil mastermind plan. Episode 29, my notes here say there's a giant flying electric toilet. Episode 30, Season 10, the toilets have somehow managed to find a way to rewire the cameras so that they can control them to be on their side. Now, my notes for episode 31 go as follows. Holy shit, this is such an insane battle against the toilets and the cameramen. In episode 32, unfortunately, they managed to find a way to control the red speaker man, and he is now against our cameramen. Season 10, the cameramen are completely losing. I don't know how they managed to rewire the red speaker man, but they did, and it's not looking good. On to the next season. Episode 33, Season 11. There is a giant toilet with laser eyes. Cameramen have created a device to save all their rewired allies. Although saving many of their friends, the cameramen get found out by not only the giant toilet, but their former friend, the red speaker man. Season 12. This was the last of the vertical seasons, and now not only are we moving on to widescreen content, but also much longer seasons as well. This, no joke, has turned into something that I'm actually invested in. Episode 36, Season 12. We see our cameramen fight against their allies and other toilets. Cameramen and toilet hybrids are now a thing, and then in 38, there are giant cameramen tank things who try to take down the giant flying leader toilets. Episode 39, Season 13. Here we see our heroes fight when suddenly a strange figure approaches them, emanating a purple ray of light. He's like the cameraman, but he has a TV for a head. Episode 40. The cameramen fight against the giant toilets, but he is helped by the TV men, both giant and small. This episode has a giant TV man, and I mean giant. Episode 42, Season 14. Cameramen continue to fight their brainwashed allies, but use the help of the TV men. But it doesn't seem to work. Now allow me to do a little bit of game theory, but maybe the toilets were protected this time because they were wearing sunglasses. Remember the giant TV man from the finale of last season? Well, he's back, and this time he uses the power of speakers to take people down. However, he faces a familiar foe. The old speaker man. Episode 45, Season 15. This battle is insane, and the TV man fights against the speaker man who manages to jetpack away. Moving on to episode 47, where this finale is so packed with not only action, but helpful information. So, the giant TV man fights against multiple giant toilets, including who I believe to be is the leader. Unfortunately, a giant toilet ambushes our hero and stabs his screen, seemingly putting an end to him. After this, our cameraman, whose POV we're watching, is taken down. But right before his lens shuts, we see a mystery man with sunglasses. Episode 48, Season 16. Here, we see a battle continue to ensue with cameramen and toilets. The toilets have somehow evolved with tech and are destroying the entire city. Episode 49. As a battle continues, a group of TV men come to help out the cameramen. Eventually, they're taken back to a secret base. In episode 50, we see our cameramen in their secret base getting invaded by countless toilets of all kinds. Episode 51, Season 17. Here, we start the season seeing from the POV of the giant cameraman, where he's defeating many toilets by crushing them and flushing. Episode 52. We start this episode with a cameraman looking at his severed hand. Thankfully, he is saved by his allies. Episode 53. We see the cameramen continuing to fight toilets who have evolved so much during these past few seasons alone, finding new ways to manipulate technology to their advantage. Episode 54, Season 18. The cameramen continue to fight against toilets. Here we see the cameramen marching towards a group of toilets in the ruins that once was the city. TV men and cameramen fight the many toilets when suddenly they are ambushed by the speaker man in the red suit. Episode 57, Season 19. All hope is lost until, with the help of a TV man, the giant red speaker man snaps out of whatever daze he was in and flies away, fighting back on all the toilets who managed to brainwash him, getting revenge for what they had done to him. For once, there seems to be peace and nothing to worry about. Episode 60, Season 20. We then fade to the cameramen and TV men and speaker men all preparing to fight. We see a new ally this time, and it seems to be a speaker woman who then flushes Dave Grohl toilet. Episode 62. Cameramen and speakermen play catch with a toilet but are ambushed by a giant toilet speaker hybrid thing. Episode 63, Season 21. Cameramen continuing to fight against the toilets. Moving on to episode 64, the speakerman and giant cameraman fight against a group of huge toilets that have somehow managed to turn themselves into war tanks. And for the first time ever after they are attacked, the giant cameraman holds out a thumbs down. So these next 4 seasons are not at all like the last ones. They are so much longer and combined are almost 2 hours worth of Skibidi Toilet content. Episode 66, Season 22. We open this season to see a huge fight between the cameramen and the toilets. Both the giant cameraman and the TV man are quickly ambushed by boss toilets and are then transported to safety, where after a quick cut, we see a familiar face. Remember that mystery man who was wearing sunglasses a couple seasons ago? He hands us a remote and says the ominous phrase, "You know what to do," before fading away. Episode 67 has a huge battle between the 2 giants and the 2 most powerful toilets, the G toilet and the scientist. It lasts quite a while before the huge TV man comes to scare them off, where the cameramen then follow them back to their own base. Now that they're finally in the enemy's headquarters, they do anything they can to secretly gather clues. They're quickly found out, where the toilets then fire lasers at the cameramen as they desperately try to escape. Now this part, no joke, actually had me feeling sad. Like, I could feel tears welling up in my eyes. But as the cameramen are just about to escape into the elevator, one of them just wasn't so lucky. He reaches out to us in desperation, but unfortunately, there's just nothing that we can do. In episode 71, the speaker man, TV man, and Titan cameraman continue fighting for their lives, but in the blink of an eye, everything changes, and we are now introduced to the biggest danger yet, a larger, even more powerful G toilet, putting a bleak end to this season. Season 24. This entire season is basically one giant fight all against the G toilet. It continuously proves its significant amount of strength by constantly holding off any amount of obstacles thrown its way. It pulls off the impossible by leaving the speaker man and the Titan cameraman severely damaged. It disappears for a short while though, giving the Titan cameraman and the speaker man some time to breathe. Unfortunately though, it returns with an army of large toilets and even more strength, sending a barrage of attacks on our heroes. Season 25 starts off the most bleak of them all. There's a feeling in the atmosphere that there's almost no hope whatsoever. And I mean, the first thing you see is literally the city that was once populated by cameramen and plungermen alike is being turned to nothing but rubble. As the cameramen are escaping the chaos, they run into this girl who wears a mech suit. And listen, I searched up who she is on the official Skibidi Toilet wiki, and it says that she's called Female Skibidi Mutant. And yeah, I'm not fucking calling her that. And that takes us to the final episode for the time being. Okay, so this entire episode is literally just 30 minutes of straight fighting and almost nothing else in between. We see what seems to be a final battle between the unstoppable TV man who has been along our side the entire series and a new enemy, the gas mask toilet. It seems like the TV man is just about to lose when, in the biggest possible turn of events, the G toilet comes to the rescue to save him. However, unfortunately, that isn't even enough. And at the very end of the final episode, the giant TV man is possessed by the enemy, and that's where it ends. That's where the whole series ends. In order to find out what happens, we're gonna have to wait another God knows how many months. Now, this conclusion isn't written out. It's literally just hot off my mind, and I really feel like I didn't give Skibidi Toilet enough of a chance. Believe it or not, I really enjoyed it. First off, the fact that there's little to no dialogue in this entire series, and I'm still able to coherently understand everything that's going on, is just proof that the creator knows exactly how to tell a good story. I mean, there were genuinely some twists that I did not see coming, like the very end twist where they managed to get the TV man on the evil side. I also really like that the creator to Fuck Boom was literally able to take something that seemed to be nothing more than a simple one-time short into an entire captivating series. On a completely other note, the animation is so impressive for Gary's mod. Obviously, for the first few seasons, you can definitely tell that it's good, but there's nothing too special. Overall, I was very pleasantly surprised by Skibidi Toilet as a whole, which is a sentence I can't even believe that I'm saying. Am I gonna be tuning into season 26? Yes, most definitely. I highly recommend you actually check it out because it completely surprised me in the best way possible. But I also recommend that you check out Ninye's video on the exact same topic. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. If this world were mine. Hey, Roman numeral 7, babe, drop it like it's hot. If this world was mine, I'd take your dreams and make it multiply. If this world was mine, I'd take your enemies and product.